You know that I love speaking to bold mavericks and sharing their stories, and I have exactly the bold story for you this week. I welcome Tina Singh. She is the CEO and founder of Bold Helmets. There you go, the perfect name of a company. She is changing the game for cultural products. She's invented and created the first safety certified multi-sport helmet for Sikh kids. It's an amazing product, amazing company that's doing great things, expanding globally. She's been on Dragon's Den. You're going to love her reasonings. This is the perfect show if you want inspiration and want the tips and tools to get things started. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the Maverick Makers podcast. I am so excited to welcome Tina Singh to the show. She is the founder and CEO of Bold Helmets, and I can't wait to tell you guys what exactly Bold Helmets is. If you don't already know, you're going to find out soon, but welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's exciting. And we also were in, not at the same time, but we were in the same sort of program together through York University, Ella, which I think is a wonderful program for female entrepreneurs. And I know that you've had great success with it. And I'm thrilled to meet you now and fellow alumni. So this is amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I've been through several of Ella's programs, so I second that. Great program to be a part of.
Amazing. So tell me, have you ever been called a maverick?
No, I don't think that I have.
Okay. Have you ever been called something similar? So a similar adjective or something like that?
I feel like I'm sometimes called a change maker. Sometimes. I sometimes feel that I'm called, it just, I don't know. I've been told I'm first to market, or that's kind of the terms that I hear a lot when we talk about me or my product.
Love it. So yeah, falls right into the maverick category. So perfect. Wonderful. So let's talk about your bold journey, no pun intended. How did you go from occupational therapist? And I'm not even sure if there was something before, so you have to let me know exactly the steps to this journey. And then you end up being this entrepreneur and a very purpose-driven entrepreneur. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I started my career journey as an occupational therapist when I feel like I can't even count how long ago, but it's about 20 years ago. And I worked in the area of head and brain injury. That was the area that I focused in. And this was well before I became a parent myself. And being a parent is kind of what led me to my journey today. But I worked in this space. I was doing assessments and treatments in the community. And it wasn't until I had kids that I realized that there was like a major gap in the market because we are a Canadian Sikh family. And what that means for us, everyone's on their own path, but what it means for us is that my kids have long uncut hair. They keep it in a top knot. And so I've got three really adventurous kids that love to do all the cycling and skateboarding and all the things, and there was no helmets that would fit them properly. And of course, I am someone who preaches the importance of helmets and, head and brain safety to people in the community. And so this was just to not sit right with me. And so as an occupational therapist, one of the things that we do is focus on product development. All that being said, I've never done it before. This was my first leap into this space. I was always working in the clinical space. And yeah, that's kind of what led me to build this product and this brand for kids like mine. And so essentially we have safety certified helmets for kids like mine who do keep their hair in a top knot.
Wow, that's amazing. And you're mentioning your husband's an engineer. So I'm assuming that really, really helped in this product design and getting the product to market.
Yeah, so my husband is extremely helpful when it comes to just even like laying out how the business is gonna run. He's really great with operations. He is a computer engineer, he's not a design engineer, so we actually did hire a design engineer to help us with the process. But yeah, no, it's definitely really helpful to have someone with some of that background and that knowledge. Kind of we have got an OT and an engineer kinda helped get us to where we are today.
Amazing. And tell me more about, are there future products in the making or, what's the vision? And are we just concentrating on kids for now, eventually adults, or just kids, or what's the vision?
So, our focus right now is really on kids because kids tend to keep their hair in this top knot with a small cloth head covering. Our products are not meant to cover a full turban by any means. You need to have the helmet snug to your head in order for it to do its job. And so our products were never intended to do that. And so that's why we focus on kids. It's usually kids who are wearing that small cloth head covering. And our focus with the current product or our current offering has been cycling, kick scooter, inline skating, skateboarding. That's what it's certified for. We are, or we have been working on a hockey version of our product, which we're hoping will be to market soon, but it's a much longer anticipated than process than I anticipated. It always is. I always think it's going to be done within the year, and it never is. It's just kind of how product design goes. But that's kind of where we're at in the short term. In the long term, I hope that we're able to expand to increase, more products and also sell more globally. And that's been one of the big things that we've been focused on for the last year is really expanding our global footprint with the product because we're addressing a market of people that is very international and it's not just concentrated in one area.
No, I think it's wonderful. And what has the feedback been with the Sikh community and this amazing product?
So the Sikh community is generally very, very appreciative of this because you don't know it's a problem unless you know it's a problem. And if you're the parent of a child who does keep their hair as part of the Sikh faith, you realize really quickly what an issue this is. And we're not just talking cycling. Your kid gets invited to a party at the rock climbing place and they can't do anything because the helmet that they wear for climbing doesn't fit. And so there's so many things they can't participate in. And so the Sikh community has been very, very supportive. We have really focused on, like I said, focusing on kids, making sure we're looking at, safety at the forefront. And so I think that this has been a problem for people for so long, and they're happy to have a solution that works.
Wonderful. Amazing. Let's talk about Den. So most people, most entrepreneurs, whether it's Dragon's Den, Shark Tank, like that's the ultimate dream to be in front of these amazing dragons or sharks. So what was that like for you?
Being on Dragon's Den, honestly, is very nauseating to be completely honest. It's a very it was an incredible experience. I'll say there's an incredible experience. And honestly, nothing really puts you to the test like being in that situation. And so it's definitely not for the weak at heart, for sure. Um, and I say it's nauseating because what you see on TV is just such a small snippet of what actually happens. And so I can tell you that I was in that den for an hour. You saw like maybe 5 minutes or less, like our segment, but it was an hour and you were getting grilled for an hour on the work that you do. And so when you're very passionate about your business, it's very intense. And for us, this is a very personal business. And I'm so thankful that my husband did go with me, that we decided to do this pitch together, because there's areas that he's much stronger in that I'm not as strong in, right? And so, and we complement each other that way. But it was definitely an experience. If you ever get the opportunity to be on Dragon's Den, I say yes because it's a great way to show a national audience that your brand is legit. And so I think people even who had heard of us from before, this was just another way to legitimize the product. It exists. It's a good quality product. It's not an online scam. All those things that you think when something is a new business. It really helped to solidify us as a business in the eyes of lots of people across Canada.
Wow. Did you get a little bit starstruck?
No, actually, like I've seen like, all the dragons, you see them online all the time. And, part of my journey that I didn't share until now is that I spent a lot of time on social media kind of, sharing my life's journey as a parent, like since I became a parent. And really that's been really important to my growth and journey online as well with this brand and building awareness around it. And so I feel like I've had the opportunity to meet lots of famous people, and so I wasn't starstruck, I was more nervous about how I was gonna perform, and so there wasn't even room to be be starstruck, really.
Do they make you redo the takes, like your actual pic? Because the clip that I saw, the 8 minutes, which was spectacular. Like you guys were solid. Like you were fantastic. Do they make you redo things over and over again?
They didn't make us redo anything, no, like, not while I was there, no.
Okay. Amazing. And is there anything you learned from the experience where you're like, you know what, if I could do it again, this is what I'd do?
Um, so I don't know if I would change anything. Like I was happy with the way our pitch went. I was happy with what we delivered. One thing I would remind people is if they are going into the den or they're considering this, is to really be good with your numbers and really be strong in the belief in the work that you do because you have a job to stand there and defend your brand, but the dragons have a job to go there and find, any inconsistencies, to find any holes in what you're doing. And so I would say go in with a very strong belief in your brand. And so um I, I I think I would even be more confident. If I could go back, if I could change one thing, I'd be even more confident in the work that we're doing.
Great advice. I love it. And do you think it helped with the uptick of exposure, sales?
Well, we were really fortunate to have a lot of exposure for our product right when we launched in 2023. Like we're relatively new. And I think that being on the den and having that air did help kind of reignite some of that interest in our brand. It did lead to a uptick on our website and awareness and things like that. We got huge reach on social media from it. So there's definitely a lot of positives that came from being on the den for sure.
Amazing. And Bold Helmets is more about is more than just protection. It's also about, self-expression and creating a niche cultural product. How did you balance safety standards with, this amazing edgy standout design? I love the colors and you've got your kids in the branding and it's so fun.
Yeah, like, I think that what we did was we focused on making sure that our design passed safety testing. That was our first priority, and it wasn't until we got that okay, like, "Oh, you've passed these tests," that we even considered um, how we wanted to market it, right? And we really just looked at safety at the forefront. That was our major consideration. And we only, very recently sort of did a refresh for our brand, like not even our logo or anything, but just refreshing the imagery and everything around our brand to reflect a little bit more of our personality. At first, we were just trying to get the word out there. Um, but yeah, like I think ours was always safety at the forefront, and then everything else comes after.
Makes sense. Your kids are adorable, by the way. And I love that guitar photo. It's so fun. It's
Thank you, and he actually plays that guitar. That's my 9-year-old, and he plays that electric guitar, and he's pretty good.
even better that it's authentic. So I love that even more.
Yeah.
So, perfect segue. Let's talk about innovation and how does that work in a consumer product space, especially like, cycling and safety gear. I'm sure you had to, prioritize, you were just mentioning function over form. And how do you go through all that, like all the safety practices and approvals and
Yeah, so it's a long process, and I think sometimes when I talk about it, it seems like it came really quickly, but it didn't. It was several years kind of working off the side of my desk to get to the point where something was cleared for use. Our process really just began with using a design engineer to help us create this image of what we needed, right? And then we iterated that several times, just because sometimes how you think something should work, you can plan something out, but that doesn't mean it's going to pass safety testing. So it took multiple steps, having a design engineer, but then also going to a manufacturer who is experienced in testing and safety of products like this, getting their feedback, pulling that all together, and then creating prototypes and then samples for testing. And something that I think people might not know for a safety product like this is that you actually have to mold and create this product and send it for testing
Mm.
and hope that it passes. That's why you want people with experience in your corner because it's very expensive to mold a product. And so if it does not pass, then you're back to the drawing board to redesign, remold, and retest. And so that's been a really interesting part of this journey, and I think if I had known when I started that these were the steps involved, I may never have done it. Like, I'm glad that I didn't know because I may have been turned away based on how challenging or how many steps are involved, especially when it's a safety certified product.
Yeah, great. Again, segue to the next question I was going to ask you is every founder hits roadblocks. So, what is that major obstacle that you faced in building this brand?
So one of the major obstacles I think for me is just knowing where to start. Honestly, before we started, I'm being truthful with you here. This has been on my mind since my oldest son was 3 years old. He's 13 now.
Wow.
So that is when he started, like, riding a bike. He was really quick to ride a bike without training wheels, do all that stuff. My oldest was very quick to all those things. And so I've been thinking about this problem since then. And, we like hollowed out the foam out of helmets. We did all kinds of things that, in hindsight, we wouldn't do now. But we did all these things and we just thought the problem would go away. And so when I realized when they started playing hockey that this problem is not going away, That's when I actually took action. So I think for me, one of the biggest hurdles was just even knowing what to do for someone who's never created product like this in the space before. So really just the how to get started and how to find the right people to help you was one of my biggest hurdles. I think other than that, it's also, how do you scale like a product-based business? Again, something new for me because that's not the area I worked in. I've run businesses before, but not product-based businesses. It was service-based businesses, and so it's completely different. So I think those were two of my biggest hurdles, but by far, I think just the where to start and how to move was the biggest one.
Think you're reading my mind because again, that was my next question is how are you scaling? How are you scaling? How are you doing that? What's the strategy? What are you thinking? What's next?
Yeah, so our strategy right now is to just serve more of a global audience. So we have been very fortunate to have a great feedback and support for our product here in Canada. We're very proudly Canadian brand, but a lot of our population is also elsewhere in the world. And so we have had to move really quickly to be able to provide product or ship our product, across Canada, US, UK, India, Europe, like we have in Australia as well. So we have a couple of key markets. And so right now, up until now, we've been shipping from Canada to all these places because that's just, again, when you're starting a business and you have to order a container full of product, you're like, sure, ship it to my house. And then we deal with it from there. That's how I did things. But now we are working on having a more streamlined distribution, and so having products sit in different markets. And I think it's pretty on par with how other people do their businesses too. When I talk to new founders, they say, "Well, that's what I had to do too." Another thing, actually, I'll just put in here that I think people don't realize is when you're dealing with manufacturers, if you're new in the space, you almost have to prove that you're worth their time too. That's a real thing. Even if you're developing overseas or locally, doesn't matter. Manufacturing is like I had to agree to an entire 20-foot container in my very first order, and to be able to work with companies like this because that's how they're used to doing business. But yeah, now we're just working on getting that product more local, streamline our distribution, and that's kind of how we're looking to scale our business as well as add more product options. I shared about hockey hopefully being the next product on the market. Even our existing product, we currently have a size small, a size medium. We have had some requests for a size large. We are trying to figure out what that demand looks like before investing in that mold to go further. But those are kind of the next steps for our business.
Brilliant. I love it. That's amazing. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself?
If I could go back in time, what advice would I give myself? I think that for me, because I had so much social presence at the time, like on social media before even launching this product, it helped me extremely. Like it helped me, raise awareness about my brand. It helped me in like a lot of ways. If I could go back, I would tell myself to be really mentally strong for what comes next because there'll be a lot of people who love your product, but there'll be a lot of really loud voices to tell you everything you're doing is wrong and what you're doing doesn't make sense. And, all the things that come with being on social media or being in a public space, I would prepare myself more for that. So as much as I've been on social media for the last 10 years, still, I don't know that I was 100% prepared for kind of what came after launch of this product because it had so much media attention. So if I could go back, I would prepare myself a little bit more for that, I think.
Wow, that's crazy. It's because you're making the bold moves that people feel like they need to have an opinion or envy, whatever it is. That's
Whatever it is, and it's all everyone's entitled to their opinion, everyone's entitled to share what they want. It's just social media just makes it so accessible that they can tell you exactly how they feel about things. But, truthfully, I learned a lot from that process too, and I think I've grown as a person because of it. I actually realized that I'm much more composed than I thought I was. Like, I'm not reactive in social media at all. So even though I had a ton of people, saying stuff or whatever, I was able to sit back with that. And actually, I did take some feedback and I actually made some changes with it. So I was always open to constructive criticism because I think that's important to help you grow and improve your product, improve your brand, improve who you are as a person. It's when, you have like direct hate that it becomes very, very difficult to see past that. But I do think I took all of that And I do think it was an important part of my journey learning as well. But if I could go back, I would definitely prep myself more for it.
Wow. What do you think your boys say on the playground to their friends about their mom?
I can tell you 100% for sure that my kids are tired of talking about helmets. I can tell you that. My youngest son often tells me, he's like, Helmets are taking over my life, right?" Because again, we had a 20-foot container delivered to my house. So that's a whole story for another day. But, you know, I think that they're definitely proud of the work. Um, I, as we're talking about this, I know you and I spoke a little bit before we started recording. I also have a 13-year-old. And if there's parents out there that are saying, I have to like hold down my child to get them to put a helmet on at 13 years old, you're not alone. I've devoted the last several years of my life to this project. I still am yelling at kids to put on their helmet before they do things, not just them, also their friends. So you're not alone. We lead by example. Kids follow what we do. I think my kids are proud, but just like any kids, they need reminders to do the things that every other kid needs to do.
Wow, amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I'm so inspired and it's fantastic. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So anything comes top of mind, just say it.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go. Morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
I'm not sure we can be friends. I'm just kidding.
Well, lately I'm dealing a lot with China, so I feel like I have had to convert a little bit. I'm kind of in between now.
Fair, I'm just teasing. Coffee or tea?
Coffee,
Okay, we're friends. Books or podcasts?
books,
Okay. Spontaneous adventure or well-planned itinerary?
well-planned itinerary.
Okay. What was your first ever job and what did it teach you about work or life?
My first ever job was working as a salesperson in a shoe store, and
Mm,
what it taught me about life is that, oh my god, there's some people with some really stinky feet. Like, that's what I learned. That's what I learned. I know that's terrible, but all jokes aside, I really did learn the idea of work-life balance, like, even at a really young age, and I started working when I was 14. I started working in a shoe store at the mall when I was 14. When I think about my kids, I can't even imagine my kids having a job. I guess times have changed, right? But yeah, no, I think it taught me a lot about work-life balance.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, your 13-year-old could get a job. Pretty crazy, huh?
Good. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. If you could instantly master one random skill, no training required, what
Mm.
would it be?
I think I don't wanna learn to play the guitar. Like, I would like to just
Mm.
know how to play the guitar.
Okay. What song are you riffing? Like, what are you playing?
It's really 'cause of my son. So my 9-year-old is learned to play, like, I love rock and roll. My 9-year-old is an old soul. He loves AC/DC, he loves Guns N' Roses, he loves, like, all the music that I love, and so I would love to play that music with him. Like, I would love that.
So fun. I love that's fantastic. What's your go-to comfort food when you need a little pick me up?
Poutine? Is that very Canadian?
Sounds
Poutine.
delicious. So good. How do you want to change the world?
I wanna change the world by, I don't know, leading with kindness, by making people never having to think twice between being who they wanna be and doing what they love. That's my entire goal with my brand, right? Just want people to never have to think twice.
Beautiful. I love that. Final question. What's next?
What's next? In general or today?
All of the above.
What's next? What's next is that, we are just so focused on global expansion. That's what's next. Everything I'm doing in my day-to-day these days, that's next. And I would be amiss to not talk about what's next is summer holidays for my kids, which I'm incredibly looking forward to, and days at the cottage. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Wonderful. I was just going to ask you, is travel involved? So, kinda, which is fun.
Kinda. It's really interesting. My kids are kind of at this age where they wanna hang out with their friends and play basketball at the front of the house versus going to Europe. So it's very it's a very weird scenario. So yes, we're gonna keep it local.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your bold story. I had to say it, but it is a very bold story and that you took the courage to start this brand, this well needed brand, and you're filling a gap and it's so important and you're protecting lives and saving lives indirectly and thank you. I really, really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat with you.
The Maverick Makers podcast is sponsored by Maverick Makers Content Creation Collective. We fuel your content pipeline through video, photography, design, and editorial. Let's connect to your audiences and make more sales. Learn more at maverickmakersco.com.